Today's topic is one of the oldest German routes in train sim world, namely the Main-Spessart Bahn. This was a route I remember liking back in the day, but now my opinion has gone a lot more neutral. If you stick around to the end of the video, you'll win a red floating beacon known for singing songs like Heroes and Rebel Rebel. It's a David Bowie. If that doesn't interest you, then the alternative prize is a small action figure based on the woman who's best known for her hit song Mickey. It's a teeny tiny Tony Basil. Those opening jokes were inspired by Tom Scott and the technical difficulties when they used to play Citation Needed, and now we return to the main topic. The Main-Spessart Bahn DLC for Train Sim World was originally released in February 2019, long before TSW2 and the other pointless sequels. Come to think of it, MSB is even older than the TSW 2020 branding, if anyone remembers that. The version of this add-on that's compatible with Train Sim World 5 costs 36 New Zealand dollars at full price. Unfortunately, the route is quite short, as you only get the 52 kilometres, or 32 miles, of track between Aschaffenburg, Hauptbahnhof and Gemünden, plus a non-electrified branch to the industrial area in South Aschaffenburg. A notable section of the line is the original Spessart ramp, a steep 1 in 50 incline between Laufach and Heigenbrücken. Freight trains going along the old route often required a banking engine, a practice that's simulated in this DLC, but a deviation was built in 2017, and the old line through the Schwarzkopf tunnel, along with the original Heigenbrücken station, was closed. For reference, the in-game route takes place sometime before 2017, but I'm not sure of the exact year. This was the first add-on to include realistic road traffic, or rather, debatably realistic road traffic, and prior to their updates, the pre-MSB routes all felt very lifeless because the roads were all deserted. Another notable addition that made its debut appearance on MSB is working destination displays, which can be selected using keypads in the BR146-2 locomotive or Dosto's cab car. On the motive power front, this route includes two very similar looking electric locomotives, namely the Deutsche Bahn BR146-2 and BR185-2. These are both part of the Bombardier Trax family, and MSB was the first route to feature the BR146-2, while the BR185-2 was reused from Ruhr-Sieg Nord, albeit with a different logo this time. These two have very few differences between each other. Hell, I'm pretty sure the horn and motor sounds are exactly the same, and I consider them to be the most boring German electric locomotives in TSW, especially given how many times DTG have recycled and resold them in subsequent routes. After Main-Spessart Bahn, the BR146-2 was recycled for Nahverkehr Dresden, Kassel to Würzburg, and Frankfurt to Fulda, while the BR185-2 with Railion branding is included with Kassel to Würzburg, S-Bahn Vorarlberg, Salzburg to Rosenheim, and the Pfälzische Ludwigsbahn. DTG's tendency to recycle certain rolling stock comes across as laziness on their part, if you ask me. I'm tired of seeing certain locomotives and coaches recycled over and over again, and would prefer it if the developers modelled more rolling stock that we've never seen in TSW before. Come to think of it, we've had the BR146-2 in the game for 6 years now, but for whatever reason, the original BR146-0 is still not here as well. You also get a small selection of freight wagons with MSB. These are the Hubbins 344 for paper rolls, articulated LAA ERS 560 for cars, Shims U708 for steel coils, and ZA-CNS tanker for oil. The Hubbins 344 and Shims U708 were both reused from Ruhrsieg Nord, while MSB was the first route to feature the ZA-CNS and LAA ERS 560. As for the passenger rolling stock, all you get with MSB are the 4th generation Doppelstockwagen coaches, which first appeared in Ruhrsieg Nord. The specific variants included with MSB are the DB PBZFA 766-0 cab car, which doesn't have a first class section, the DB PZA 780-3 coach, with second class and a bicycle storage area, but no first class, and finally, the DAB PZA 785-2, with a first class section on the top deck. Dovetail would go on to reuse these or other 4th gen Dostos variants with at least 9 more German routes, as if no one was bored of them. Personally, I'm absolutely sick of seeing these coaches recycled so many times, but fortunately, 5 semi-recent German routes, namely Maintal Bahn, Niedertal Bahn, Link-Rheinstrecke, Bremen to Oldenburg, and the Mittenwald Bahn, do not use Doppelstockwagen coaches at all. Not on their main services anyway. Instead, they use either single-decker locomotive-hauled coaches, or, in the case of the Niedertal Bahn and Maintal Bahn, diesel multiple units. Main-Spessart Bahn's passenger services normally run in a push-pull configuration with the locomotive at the eastern end and the cab car at the western end, but this arrangement is reversed for the Gemünden to Lohr Bahnhof shuttle. All passenger services over MSB are hauled by BR146-2s. There aren't any intercity express services here in timetable mode, despite the fact that A, they do run on the route in real life, and B, we've now got 5 classes from the ICE family in TSW. Although she can be seen at Aschaffenburg Hauptbahnhof in real life, one train that you don't see in TSW is the BR1440 EMU in Hessisch and Landesbahn colours. German private operators are rarely seen in TSW, and even then, the ones we do have are mostly on the freight side. Flixtrain is currently the only private passenger operator from Germany in the game, and speaking of Flixtrain, it's time for a short intermission with the musical Vectrons. MSB's timetable mode includes 193 playable services for the BR185-2, 64 for the BR146-2, and 62 for the Dostos cab car leading a passenger service. The main Aschaffenburg to Gemünden stopping service is labelled as RB79, and one of the intermediate stations, namely Heigenbrücken, also sees terminating trains coming from either Aschaffenburg or Gemünden, and there's also the unusual shuttle that runs from Gemünden to Lohr Bahnhof and back. For reference, it takes around 53 minutes to cover the full route on a stopping all stations passenger service. As for freight, There are 55 eastbound and 54 westbound services on MSB's timetable, with 21 of the eastbound services requiring a banker between Laufach and Heigenbrücken. The BR-185/2 is the dominant motive power for freight services, as one might expect, but locomotives from other add-ons can substitute into the timetable as an alternative to the BR-185/2. The locomotives in question include, but are not limited to, the BR-155 and BR-182, which are both separately sold add-ons, as well as the BR-143 from Ruhr-Sieg Nord, Nahverkehr Dresden, Taranto Ramp, or the Frankfurt S-Bahn. Here we go again with Dovetail recycling motive power over and over, but instead of launching into another rant about that situation, I'll try and lighten the mood with another citation needed-esque joke. You win a strange hybrid of an American diesel locomotive and two little tank engines from Misty Island. It's a Bash and Dash 8. I tried running one of those freight services that needs a banker up the Spessart ramp, and it went like this. I started out at Aschaffenburg and stopped in the loop at Laufach, where I passed the time by watching the other trains coming and going while I waited for the banker. Eventually, the banker finally came back down the hill after helping a previous train, but she went to another siding at the western end of the station, and sat there for a few minutes before finally coming back and coupling up to my train. Once the banker was coupled up, the whole convoy charged at the 1 in 50 incline, but it was still hard work for the three locomotives, who had 25 wagons between them. Upon arrival at Heigenbrücken, I stopped the train in the loop, and I thought I would just be able to uncouple the banker and continue on to Gemünden without any issues. But I encountered a bug where the uncoupling objective would not clear, regardless of whether I was on foot or in the free roam camera when I tried uncoupling. As far as I'm concerned, this provides all the more reason to refer to Dovetail games as doesn't test games. I had to go back to the main menu and load the Heigenbrücken to Gemünden leg of the service there, and while I completed the journey in the end, the way in which I had to do it was not ideal at all. In any case, there's only one other TSW route with banker services, besides Main-Spessart Bahn, that I can think of, with the route in question being Sandpatch grade. Besides the continued use of older lighting, instead of TOD4, another dead giveaway to this route's age is the scenery, with some of the hillsides looking unrealistically bare, and they're especially bad between Patenstein and Weistal. The hills don't look much better near Laufach, at the foot of the Spessart ramp, and when I tried driving the BR-193 Vectron from Gemünden to Aschaffenburg, I noticed the locomotive lurching and swaying about so much that she could give the Class 142 Pacer a run for her money. I wasn't expecting the suspension physics to be this wacky. In my opinion, the biggest problem with Main-Spessart Bahn isn't the dated scenery, but rather the short route coverage. It's very disappointing to see that Dovetail never extended it to Würzburg or Frankfurt am Main, and if the post-TSW3 version of Southeastern High Speed, not to mention Rivet Games adding the Leavenmouth rail link to their 5-circle route, are anything to go by, route extensions are clearly possible, so I don't see any reason why Dovetail shouldn't make an extended version of MSB that goes all the way to Würzburg, especially since they could reuse part of the existing Schnellfahrstrecke Kassel to Würzburg route, and we all know how much DTG likes reusing things. I initially thought that MSB should have been extended to Frankfurt am Main, until I saw the abysmal performance on the Kinzigtal Bahn route, the first time Frankfurt was featured in TSW. So that's why I now think Würzburg would be a better option. Initially, you could not access the non-electrified section down part of the Maintal Bahn and onto Aschaffenburg docks, because there weren't any German diesel locomotives in the game. In April 2020, Rivet Games released the BR204 diesel locomotive as an add-on for this route, and while she does allow access to Aschaffenburg docks, and is probably one of Rivet's better products, her contribution to MSB's timetable is borderline feeble, as she only adds 7 additional services. One of those services is just a one-way shunt down the branch from Lohr Bahnhof, with no return working for whatever reason. Speaking of the Maintal Bahn, that route would eventually be released as a Train Sim World add-on in November 2023, covering the section from Aschaffenburg Hauptbahnhof to Miltenberg. This is an interesting route concept because it's not electrified, and runs through mostly rural environments on a single track line, serving a few small towns along the way. But the add-on itself is fairly low quality, especially where the scenery is concerned, and it doesn't help that the BR612 from Taranto Ramp substitutes into the Maintal Bahn's timetable, despite being out of place for this part of Germany. In conclusion, I think the Main-Spessart Bahn route add-on deserves nothing more than a 5 out of 10. The disappointingly short route coverage, boring motive power, and dated scenery, not to mention that bug where the game wasn't clearing the uncoupling objective, let the overall package down, but there's something about the experience of driving through the hilly terrain that I still like. In any case, I don't go on MSB too often because it's largely been superseded by better routes in the years since its release. Hell, I would even go so far as to say that Main-Spessart Bahn is forgettable, and it would be a damn sight better if DTG either extended it to Würzburg, or, at the very least, remastered the existing route in a similar manner to the West Somerset Railway and Cathcart Circle. In any case, I tried to think of one more citation-needed-esque joke with which to end the video. You win a person who delivers the post and is also known for singing songs like We Belong, Hit Me With Your Best Shot, and All Fired Up. It's a Postman Pat Benatar.